Hello, thank you for clicking into this video. Before we get much further along in it, I just want to say again, thank you. This is the first video on my channel, and it's somewhat of an introduction to what I don't even know is to come. Primarily, I think this channel is going to be a booktube channel, and so the first video I'm going to make is a booktube newbie tag, much like tens of thousands of people have done before. So you've probably heard all these questions, but this is my version of the booktube newbie tag. So thank you for clicking in. I hope you enjoy. Hi, just a little edit and post here. I did not say my name one time throughout this entire video. My name is Brett. Nice to meet you. Number 1 of 11. Why did I start this channel? I have a pretty specific reason for that, and that is over the last 6 or 7 years, I have been more of a book collector than a reader, and I kind of want to flip that on its head. So maybe in the last 6 or 7 years, I've acquired, my wife and I, 230, maybe a little bit more books. We've only read maybe 30 of them combined. We read more than that, but a lot of our books end up being from the library. So my goal for this channel is to share my journey of, instead of, getting more books or getting more library books or anything like that, reading all 230 books that we have on our shelves right now. And that will include books that my wife got specifically for her. I definitely own them, or not own, but got the majority of the books on the shelf. I love to go to secondhand stores or, go thrift shopping and see what I can find. Yeah, reading all of the books that I have before moving on to any library books. Maybe I'll cheat a little bit, but no buying books for sure until I read all of them. So it might take 3, 4, or 5 years to do. I want to make it clear I am not ever going to set a goal that is my goal for booktube is to read 300,000 books this year, because as much as I like watching those videos of people who just hammer out the reads, that's not what this channel is going to be. It's going to be more of a learning journey, branching out into different things that I've never read before and sharing those thoughts with you as a non-consumer, at least for a few years maybe. So let's move on. Number 2, what are some fun and unique things that I think I can bring to you, not just YouTube, but I guess not just BookTube, but YouTube. I like to kind of batch read. I think some of you would call this maybe mood reading, just grabbing whatever book off the shelf. But I've really had this idea recently that I'd like to pair up certain books, or maybe get groups of 3 or 4 of them. But specifically, if I read a book about, somebody being put together like a Frankenstein monster after dying, maybe instead of reading something completely different after that, maybe I'll try to read a classic like Frankenstein afterwards. Or if I read a book about death, maybe I'll try to read some Russian philosophy. Those 2 examples are something that I already did, but maybe that Russian philosophy book is Leo Tolstoy's hi, you okay? Maybe it's Leo Tolstoy's The Death of Ivan Ilyich. So that's kind of the idea that I have moving forward with this, these batch readings, and doing some cool stuff with reflecting on some modern books and looking at the classics of old. Basically just trying to read about certain topics without getting too pressed on reading the moderns or reading the classics, kind of pairing those 2 things and seeing how people's views of topics have kind of changed, and how human literature has progressed. I say human as if we know of any other literature. I don't know. Anyway, maybe this will go on long enough that I'll be reading alien literature in the future. What are you most excited for with this channel? I think in general, I love sharing my thoughts on books, and it heightens and deepens my experience with the things that I'm reading. So I would just say sharing my thoughts with other people and putting myself in a place that I have to really think about what I'm doing before I just get in front of a camera and talk about it, you know? Why do you love reading? I tend to have a hard time kind of identifying with the people that say, oh, reading just takes me to this like new place. It's like escapism. As much as I would like, to have like those experiences with books, I don't tend to like. I definitely feel that I have like a vivid imagination and I have an easy time imagining what's going on, but I'm more so like the big ideas of books. Have you ever gone on like something like Pinterest just to look at stuff? Like you don't have a particular reason why, Pinterest, it's not necessarily just for infinite scrolling, although it has that feature. Like I love the idea of Pinterest because you can go on there and just like look at ideas. The idea of imagining my own world with the ideas that are presented in a book. Like I like imagining worlds and what would happen in them. A lot of times I will read a book and then like maybe I'm not super satisfied with that, and I'll just try to imagine like my own ending, you know what I mean, and stuff like that. Like when people do rewrites of seasons or episodes of shows, I'm really into that stuff. I love reading because of the big ideas presented. What book or series got you into reading? Mainly my wife kind of got me into reading a little bit more. She started a job and like years ago, and one of the ways that she started connecting with people there is they kind of like started a book club, and she joined on in, and just the idea of meeting up with people and talking about a book that you read, it really kind of fueled me. I was like, that's awesome. And I knew what like a book club was before, but I'd never met anybody that was in one. And so I kind of I never really thought about it. I was not a huge reader all of my life, but I love the idea of stories and stuff like that. So I kind of started slow when I started reading. And I think the first book that I read after I, said to myself, like, I'm going to start reading a little bit more, was more of like a young adult read. It was called The Bear, and it was about this girl who, her and her dad are like the last humans on Earth. That book was it was stellar to me. It was an easy read, but I enjoyed myself through it, and I wanted to, chase that feeling after that. I quickly moved on to some more sci-fi stuff, which I knew I was into in terms of media. It was actually not really a sci-fi, but after knowing about Emily St. John Mandel, she, with like Sea of Tranquility or, Station 11, which I haven't read yet, I saw that she had some more books at my library, and I picked up The Glass Hotel, and it's a bit of like a slow burn thriller. I enjoyed that book so much. And again, I just wanted to chase that. I've read a bunch of books since then, and most of the time I enjoy myself. So you can thank I think maybe the author of that is like Kravach or something, The Bear, and then Emily St. John Mandel, which is a mouthful to say every time that people ask me, well, who's one of your favorite authors? Emily St. John Mandel. Emily St. John Mandel. And I haven't even read all of her books. I've only read 2 of them, but they've just, they were fantastic. So I can thank her for, keeping me reading. What questions would you ask your favorite booktubers? The one guy that I really like, his name is Jack Edwards. He is a very funny guy. He tends to read a little bit more like literary fiction. I always think of that as just like fiction, but I guess it's a little bit different. I still don't really know what literary fiction is. So he reads a lot of that and like historical fiction and stuff, but he's always so into everything that he's reading. He's so passionate about it, and I love that. And then another one of my favorite booktubers on the complete end of the other end of the spectrum here is, his name is Bookpilled. He reads a lot of like sci-fi stuff. He kind of has more of like a sophisticated, very meticulous vibe to him. He's always doing this like 100 book challenge where he's just like pretty much breezing through like tons and tons of books. And he did a stint recently where he was like living in, I believe it was Thailand, and just reading a bunch of books that he could find at like secondhand stores there, because all the books are just like super cheap. I don't know. But I guess the questions that I would ask them are, I would ask them, what was it that you sought out whenever you started a booktube channel, and have you achieved it? Have you got that goal within your grasp? Are you almost there, or is it kind of this thing that's ongoing? Either way, do you feel that you are hitting your goals with this channel? Because I know my goal is a little bit more metric based, but I'm sure that there are people that, they want an enrichment with reading, and I wonder if people are getting that out of BookTube, or if they're feeling more so bogged down. So I don't know. What do you think? Okay, next question. What challenges do you think starting a BookTube channel will be the hardest to overcome? I think I see so many videos about this, is that BookTube is toxic, and what BookTube did to kill my reading. And maybe that's just because it's a new year and people are talking about it. People get too sucked into the idea of metric-based reading, and I know I'm kind of being hypocritical here, but this is not I'm going to read 230 books in the next year or in the next 2 years. I'm kind of accepting that it's going to take a long time, and I almost hope that it takes longer than shorter, because I don't want to just be sprinting through these books. The challenge must be that I don't want to get bogged down with the idea of how many books am I reading, and who's reading this book. And the good thing is I have all the books that I'm going to read. I don't have to think about what I'm going to read next. I could just use a random number generator and pick it that way. When did you start reading? So I was like 20 years old when I picked up a book and read it for the first time, with the intention of this is for myself, And honestly, I don't even know that I ever finished a book in high school or middle school, because even the one time that I read a book on my own for like a book report, not like an English assignment or something, I read the abridged version of it. At the time, I didn't know that it was the abridged version of it, or I guess it was kind of like a kid's abridged version. It was H.G. Wells' The Time Machine. I went to put this book on my to be read shelf on Goodreads, and I noticed that it was kind of like longer than I imagined, or that I remembered that it was. So yeah, probably when I was 20, so like 7 years ago. Where do you read? So I tend to read at home and at work. So right now I'm actually doing something where I'm tracking all of my reading, what time of the day and what time of day I stop, to tell me what time of day am I reading most. I think that'll be interesting. But I expect that it'll be probably the most during like 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. somewhere in there. That's when I take my first break at work. I should mention that I go to work at 5, so I'm not like taking my first break as soon as I get there. But I tend to read on my first break at work, and then I'm too tired the rest of the day to read while I'm there. The longer sessions that I do, which are fewer and far between, are at home, So, yeah. What kind of books do you like to read? So I tend to be more of a sci-fi guy. More on the sci-fi, maybe thriller, maybe sci-fi fantasy. But I really have been enjoying like thrillers in general, and I'm enjoying the idea of reading historical fiction. I have a book called The Terror by, I believe his name is Dan Simmons. Yes, Dan Simmons. And that book is about a voyage that went to the Arctic, and it's kind of this spin on this actual story that happened, and it's got a little bit of horror elements to it. There's some sort of terror that's out there on the ice when they kind of get stuck. But I have my bookshelf purposely with all the books turned away because I don't want anything on my bookshelf to influence anybody to say, oh, he's got that book on his shelf. I'm not gonna subscribe. Which, if you're this far through the video, you might as well go ahead and do. So again, thank you for watching. But next question, because I think we wrapped that one up there. 11. Oh, no, we didn't wrap it up. That's the reason why I'm making this channel, because I know what I like to read, but I want to branch out a little bit more. So my wife likes to read a little bit more of the literary fiction or like romance stuff. So I want to get more into that. I really, now the Terror has some sailing in it, but I really like the idea of reading about like sailing and being on the seas. Lastly here, what does your book collection look like? So right now, my book collection looks like a mess because we moved our bedroom to the downstairs in our house and our office upstairs. She tends to really enjoy organizing our books by color. So she does like the rainbow thing. That's how she likes to do it. And I tend to like whatever she likes. So that's what it actually looks like. Statistically, it is primarily science fiction. I think it's somewhere around 25 to 30% science fiction. And then after that, it's got maybe like 10 to 15% fantasy, and then some horror, I think. Horror thriller fills up a lot there too. Some of the smaller categories are like, we have some plays and some philosophy a little bit. So we have a little bit of everything, but I want to read all of it. so that's what we're going to do. I'm going to go ahead and stop rambling, edit this video, and post it. I really hope that you enjoyed. I thank you so much for tuning in. This is not like, I'm not a news anchor, but I enjoyed making this video, and I think that I'm going to enjoy talking about books in the future. Sometime soon, I'll go ahead and post. It really should be really soon. I'll post a video talking about some of my favorite books. I don't want to immediately get into the wrap-ups of the year so far for me. So yeah, thank you so much. I hope that you have a great day, and peace.